What's up, guys? Welcome to Buckets and Chill, the Retrospect.com's official NBA podcast. I'm your co-host, Javier Faustino, alongside Andre Santos.
What's up?
How you doing, man?
I don't know how to feel rooting for the Celtics, but I don't know. I don't know why I feel energetic with that game.
It's because it's quality basketball.
It is quality basketball. What a great game, especially by the
Yeah.
Heat.
So unfortunately, as you guys can see, we don't have our co-host Vincent Pao with us. You know, the Celtics played the Heat, and Vince felt the burn after going down 0-2.
And I think
Hopefully,
I think
I
it's,
hope the Celtics can actually come back in this series, just so we have a competitive series.
right. And I think it's no coincidence that we're wearing black. Both of us are wearing black today. I think,
Oh, that's true.
rip to the
That's true.
Celtics, and we're sorry for your loss, Vince.
Gotta rep, man. These
Yeah.
are also the Miami Heat.
Yeah,
Was it
Miami.
home colors
Yeah,
or
right.
away colors?
Right.
I think, yeah. So let's get right into it. You know, before this series started, I said that, and everyone knows this, that the Miami Heat team is filled with dogs, right?
Yep.
They never give up and they don't get rattled. And you could see that in both games 1 and 2. They were down like large deficits. I think like in game 2 at one point, like 15 points, 17 points. And yeah, they didn't give up and they came back. And that just shows how they have like supreme confidence in their team and themselves.
And the Heat, what makes their comebacks, how should I say this, more impressive, is that their struggles in the first half are really diminished in the second half, and they come
Yeah.
out with such a great adjustment in the second half. So I was thinking in the game, we were just talking about how Doc Rivers needs to learn how to adapt, adjust on the fly, and he can take that Erik Spoelstra masterclass, man. Like-
Shout out to Spo, man.
Filipino pride. So today we can break down the first half. So first half compared to game 1, Goran made the big moves, kept Miami
Yeah.
sort of fighting alive in the first game. But today, Duncan Robinson, man, wow! Like Jeff Van
Just
Gundy
the second
said it
coming
best. Yes,
of Klay Thompson.
yeah, man.
Yeah.
Jeff Van Gundy compared him to Klay Thompson. That I think his third three, where he caught it in his chin, didn't bring it down and just shot it right
No
away.
dip, man.
No dip.
No dip.
Like crazy shooting, and just the ability to sprint around the floor, keep his balance, and
Yeah.
just being that knockdown shooter for the Heat. And he kept them sort of at a fighting distance, because I can imagine without his threes, that lead of the Celtics would have grown. So maybe we
Yeah.
can talk about also why the Celtics had that big lead.
Yeah, and we were talking about in the episode before this, like before the series started, we talked about the marksman extraordinaires of the Heat, right?
Right.
So today, Jay Crowder and Tyler Hero, they didn't shoot it that well,
Yeah.
like efficiency wise, but because of their threat from three, they kept the defense honest. So they demand like hard closeouts, and that opens up the lane
Right.
for the other Miami offensive players. And yeah, like you said, Duncan Robinson was keeping them in striking distance, and he seriously like lit them up.
Literally.
Yeah.
He brought the Heat, and he carried the Heat in that first half. And Jay Crowder, Tyler Hero, Jimmy Butler, Bam, name all of them. Like, they couldn't buy a bucket in that first half. Literally, the Celtics were tearing them apart. So I was confident that the Celtics would be able to sustain that. And
Yeah.
I think what went right for the Celtics in that first half was their penetration. So man-to-man, the Heat were still in their man-to-man defense. So Jason Tatum, Kemba attacking the pick and roll. And I think it was funny because I was thinking the Heat were playing like they were in practice. It's like they were playing against the Heat. So I was seeing some drives where they were anticipating kickouts. Because if you're defending Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero in practice, you're really anticipating that these drives will end up to kicks, right? But
yeah.
the Celtics took advantage of their anticipation, or their overthinking, if I should say, with
Yeah.
mid-range jumpers, attacking the hoop, and Enes Kanter took them by surprise for a few minutes because
Yeah.
usually
Shout out to him,
it's
man.
yeah,
He actually got playing time.
and
Yeah.
usually it's Robert Williams or Daniel Theis playing those minutes. But the difference with him is that when he has a mismatch, he's sealing in the post.
Yeah.
He's crashing the boards. Theis and Williams, when they get the seal, it's like they're passive already. They're just waiting for an offensive rebound, letting the guards do their thing. So I think I thought that would be a big move for the Celtics, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, great adjustment by Brad, but all changed in the second half.
The only time that like the Heat can play like they are in practice is when it's like Jimmy Butler going against Karl Anthony Towns
Right.
and Andrew Wiggins,
Right.
like with the third stringers. Like, so that's the only time that they can simulate practice, because that version of Jimmy Butler's a dog. So let's move into the second half of the game. Like, Bam Adebayo is a monster, man. Like, I actually think that, like, it's probably an unpopular opinion because there's Gobert, there's Joel Embiid, but I actually think that Bam Adebayo got snubbed from the All NBA
NBA.
third team because of his two-way play, and he's done it all season long, and he's been arguably the MVP. That's what all the other Heat players say. He's been the MVP of this Miami Heat team.
Yep.
What did they get? Like fourth seed, or
Fourth seed, right?
fourth seed. So yeah, he's been the MVP there. So I feel like he really deserved All NBA third team. And Celtics can have like their above average defender in Tice,
Yeah.
but it was a dunk clinic in the third quarter.
Crazy.
Like, yeah, and you can like it was an instrumental show by Goran Dragic, who I identified as like the X factor before this series started.
Yep.
Because if you remember, the Heat were down, like they were down double digits, right? And then when that third quarter started, Goran Dragic like started going to work, started the pick and roll with Bam Adebayo.
Yep.
And then he just collapsed the defense so well, even though like an All NBA first team defender in Marcus Smart was guarding him. And then he just found him on the rolls, and then Bam just kept dunking it and
Yeah.
dunking it. And I think dunks are a really telling statistic because it shows how open the offensive player is. Because if it's just a layup, like it can, most of the time it's contested. It's really hard to make a contested dunk,
Right.
right? So that shows how Goran Dragic was putting his teammates in positions to succeed. So open, unpressured dunks.
Right. And I was even telling a friend how disappointed I was with Bam in the first half. But at the same time, because you know what he's going to bring on the defensive end, all 48
For sure.
minutes. But
Yeah.
on the offensive end,
Even past the 48th minute, because he had that monster, what was it? Probably the second greatest block of all
Right.
time in the
Last
playoff
game.
history against Tatum in the game one.
yeah. So in the first half, Bam was being positioned on top as a screener and a handoff guy for Duncan Robinson. And most of his attempts were floaters, mid-range shots in the first half. So I love the adjustment where they used Duncan Robinson's hot shooting in the first half as a decoy to come in the second half. So it changed from Duncan Robinson moving around. They immediately put him in one side, one corner, as a weak side defender for the pick and roll defense, for the pick and roll of Goran and Bam. So instead of the floaters and the mid-range shots, we saw more
Yeah.
dunks from him. You know, straight line cuts, straight line dives to the hoop, and that's because you want to give credit to Bam, you want to give credit to Goran, but what an adjustment to
Yeah.
use the hot streak of Duncan Robinson as a decoy. So Jason Tatum, Jalen Brown couldn't help off. So there's a reason. You really
Yeah.
can't blame Thais because it's his job to contain the guard in the pick and roll drive. And we obviously saw that they weren't
Agreed.
switching. So the only key there is the weak side defense. So if you're a Celtics fan, what happens there? And Mark Jackson said it best. You can you can definitely say that Bam Adebayo will make more dunks than Duncan Robinson makes threes. And it's
Yeah.
just really the effect of this new basketball, the 3-point era.
Yeah. It's floodgates. Like when you don't protect your paint like that, it's floodgates.
Right.
And the Celtics felt that. And I think like with Goran Dragic, in game one, he had 29 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists. In this game, he had 25 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists. So when Dragic sat, the Heat offense went stagnant and cold, right? After they
Right.
went on their dunking clinic.
Right.
And they had no one to collapse the defense and no one to feed the cutters. So that led to the Heat giving up a 15-2 run,
Yep.
which is, yeah, that's huge. That changed the entire game. But when Dragic came back into the game, he had this like instant crafty layup, and then he hit this huge off the dribble three over Tice. So for the Miami Heat, he's like instant offense.
Right. Right. And if you're the Celtics, you know that Goran is gonna make the right move off the pick and roll. Whether you give him
Yeah,
that layup or you give him the ability to make a pocket pass in the pick and roll. I think it's easy for me to say because it's all after the game and I'm just a mere observer. It's tough to make those
yeah,
adjustments. But I think the right adjustment that could have been made was hedging Dragic, forcing him to pull the ball back out in the pick and roll. So
yeah,
of course you have two guys obviously on the pick and roll on Dragic. But instead of having Bam just having the momentum to roll, you're gonna force him to pop, catch it high, make a dribble, make a move, make a decision to pass or to drive.
yeah,
So those are the things that the Celtics have to realize that you're gonna give up something. You're gonna give up a three.
yeah,
You're gonna give up a roll. You're gonna have to choose something eventually. But I'd rather have probably Bam coming up high, catching it high in the free throw line, maybe if you hedge on Dragic, and force him to make a move, force him to bring his head down, force him to dribble, and who knows, that might work out for them.
yeah. And so it's some things like they just kill you more than others.
Right,
So you have to pick your poison
right,
with this
right.
Miami Heat team. And I think what was surprising to me was that Derek Jones Jr. he was getting Andre Iguodala's minutes.
Yep.
But I actually think it worked out for them because it gives them like this springy, long, athletic defender who can pressure the ball. Hey, he had some good plays, like had a strip, had a block, had a steal. And I think it's a testament to this Miami Heat team's quality and depth that they can win the game against a stellar Celtics team, even if Jimmy Butler goes for 11 points and 36% field goal.
Right. And it's a big positive sign when your superstar, your best player, is actually your missing link in this game, and you still get that win.
Yeah,
Because I believe he was the missing link. Defensively, of course, he was there, but on the offensive side, didn't look as confident
yeah,
on with his 3-point shot. Just attempted one shot today on the 3-point line, and
yeah,
but the defensive end man, in Ateneo, there we have these stats called hustle stats. So these are the stats that aren't seen. It's draw charge, pass deflections, stuff that you won't see in the box
yeah,
score. And the Heat had so much of that. And I think that wouldn't have happened. They wouldn't be in that position if they didn't go to their zone. What an adjustment. I think everyone's talking about how amazing this zone
that's
is.
huge.
And to maximize that, utilize that in the NBA, and to
Yeah,
to be efficient in doing it with the defensive 3 seconds rule. It's amazing. Like how do they, like I sometimes you try to analyze and observe how are they getting away with the defensive 3 seconds and staying in that zone and being able to close out and switch so effectively.
yeah. And I think with that zone, you're gonna see it a lot more in the NBA throughout the years because that zone really disrupts the flow of the opposition's offense.
Right.
Like, yeah, they stick to man for most of the game, but when you throw that zone at them, they only start their offensive actions, like their plays, when it's like 16 seconds in the shot clock because they're still readjusting to the defense.
Right.
So yeah, that was masterclass by Spo. And I think what surprised me about watching game 2 was how athletic and energetic this Miami Heat team was. Because you know that the Celtics are filled with athletes, right? They have Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart, all these guys, long,
Yep.
athletic, they play hard. But the Miami Heat, man, it looked like they were flying on the court, like with their defense. They
Yeah.
were just switching so well. Their communication was so good. And my favorite play was down the stretch when Jimmy I think he got a deflection,
Yeah, the
and then it was
deflection.
going out of bounds.
Right.
Yeah, and you could see like that just epitomizes the heart of this Heat team because they don't give up on plays. He dove like right out of bounds and he saved the ball, and then he went to cut to the rim and then he got an open dunk.
Yep.
Like they work hard for easy points.
And
So it's nothing flashy, right? It's just effective.
right. And these pass deflections and the toughness of this zone was even brought further because of how Spo put the wings, Butler, Crowder, and Jones Jr. on top. I
Yeah.
don't see that zone being as effective if you put the smaller guys like Dragic and Hero, who are not, elite defenders on top.
Yeah.
Because now, the Celtics starting most of their offense on top are being pressured by these long defenders.
Yeah.
So, a lot of things can happen. So if you put your head down, you have these defenders who can pick your pocket, you know, pressure you hard.
Yeah.
And then if you're looking to shoot, they can contest. And if you're looking to pass, they're blocking your vision. So it
Yeah.
was just so smart. And what the Celtics could have done maybe, since you have the smaller guards in the bottom, are crashing the boards.
Yeah.
And it just
Yeah.
didn't happen. It just didn't happen for them.
And I think that, with this zone and these like excellent rotations by the Miami Heat, it drives the Celtics off of the 3-point line, right?
Yep.
Because they close out hard since it's a zone. They're not right up on them man
Right.
to man. And what happens is the Celtics, they go for the closeout, but they get stuck in the mid range.
Right.
They start taking these like low percentage floaters, these inefficient jump shots because Bam Adebayo's rotating to the paint.
Right.
And yeah, so they don't want to go hard at him because they saw what happened at
Yep.
the end of game 1. But yeah, so this defensive scheme is just so efficient for the Miami Heat.
Yep. And you want to give credit to the Heat for playing great zone
Yeah.
offense. Zone defense, I mean. But the Celtics were very disappointing to watch because in Euro basketball, Asian basketball, FIBA basketball, zone is normal. And I think
Yeah,
every basket player has to know that the weakness of every zone is the middle. And
for sure.
how do you attack the middle if you have 4 guys outside and 1 guy in the dunker spot in the bottom? Twice, we only saw twice that they hit the middle, which was Marcus Smart. So,
Yeah.
okay, they're hitting the middle, he had open floaters, which he wasn't taking. But you'd prefer that you had a big there maybe. So if he caught in the middle, he had a high percentage hook shot, or he could attack the paint right away. But it was just weird to see that, we're in Asia, we're in the Philippines, and you see zone a lot. And you just know that, wait, basic zone offense, put someone in the middle, swing the ball around, and nothing's, and you're gonna find a good shot eventually. And
Yeah.
I think it's no coincidence that they struggled with the zone, because if we remember back in FIBA, Team USA, that's basically a Boston Celtics team. You had
Yeah.
you had 3 or 4
I think 4.
Yeah, 4 Celtics players on that team. And there's a reason why they finished 7th. They were struggling with the zone. They didn't know how to play zone offense. 4 out on the zone offense, you're gonna be able to defend 2 guys with 1 player. That's the problem with the 4 out. So just it's just weird.
And
Best players in
I
the
think
world.
you could, yeah, I think you could see that they weren't exploiting the middle and attacking that zone defense correctly because the offense that they were generating, it was mostly from the perimeter. It was mostly like from three.
Right.
Like, yeah, like off the top of your head, if you think about how they scored, it was like Kemba like pulling up from three.
Right.
Yeah, shout out to him, man. He stepped up
Yep.
today. He's been having a difficult playoff series, but a lot of it, yeah, it's just contested jumpers, and they're not, yeah, they're not remembering like the basic fundamentals of the game, depending on the schemes that you come up with.
Right. Right.
So it'll be interesting to see how Brad Stevens helps his team respond because at the moment, like Spo is giving him that work. Right?
Yeah. And I think that's really something that killed them. Basically, that zone defense. And honestly, there's really not much adjustments aside from where are we gonna place our players? How are we gonna fix our spacing? Because
Yeah.
there were even times where Jaylen Brown staying in the mid range, and you're not gonna get a quality pass there. And
Yeah.
they just have
And I think,
to realize
think-
that they have to attract in a zone one side of the defense, bring them to one
Yeah.
side, swing the ball, force the weak side to close out, and hit the drop pass in the middle. It's just
yeah.
weird, man. These are pro
I think-
players.
I think you could see that the Celtics were so uncomfortable with the zone because whenever the two guys on top would pressure the ball,
Yeah.
they would throw terrible passes,
Right.
like off the mark. Like for example, I remember Jason Tatum had one. So like he was on like the left side of the 3-point wing,
Yep.
and then he got pressured by two players, and then he threw a pass to Jaylen Brown, and it went like right out
Yeah.
of bounds.
Remember
right?
that.
So they just need to remember their principles, and they have to be composed under pressure because this Miami Heat team is gonna press them.
Yeah. And there's the heat zone because, as we said, NBA still has that defensive 3-second rule. So
Yeah.
it has hints of man-to-man defense still.
Yeah.
But I think it's not an excuse why the Celtics are still running pure man-to-man plays. Because it's getting predictable. Kemba bringing it on one side and Tatum aligned with him, if you know. And then they swing the ball and set a punch screen for using thighs.
on this other side,
Right.
Yeah.
And then we got two corner guys. Like, and the man, I understand. You're really going to be able to force a 2-on-1, force a mismatch
Yeah.
either way. On the zone, guys are just going to be able to pick up for each other. There's going to be so much help. Paint's going to collapse. So
Yeah.
that's what they have to do. And when they attack the middle, they're going to get open looks. Because
Yeah.
it's surprising
And I
that in the zone, they're still not getting open threes when that's the weakness of any zone. Giving up open threes in the middle.
And I want to give some props also to Jimmy Butler because in game one, he didn't play that well for like, what was it, like 3 quarters,
Yep.
I'd say. And then he came up huge with that step back 3
Yeah.
from the corner, right? And then on the last play to give them their final points, he drove hard at Tatum and they bumped twice. And he just drained it over him, right? In the paint. And so he put Tatum in that weight room. And I think even in this game, he wasn't playing well at all, right? We talked about his inefficient stats. But he comes up huge with that deflection and saving it out of bounds and then getting the open dunk. So even though he's not playing well, he's such a big time player.
Right.
And that's why I have so much respect for him. Like, yeah, he might not have that all-worldly talent at the top, the cream of the crop.
Yep.
But he makes up for it in how hard he plays and how much you can rely on him
Yeah.
in the clutch.
He works
So I
hard.
think
He works
I
hard
think,
and
yeah, go ahead.
he makes the right decision, I think. He just
Yeah.
makes the right decision at the right moment every time.
yeah. And he talks about it. He's like, I'm not the best shooter. I don't have the best handles. I'm not the fastest. I'm not the tallest.
Yep.
But I'll give you like my heart on every single possession.
Right.
So I think a big storyline to watch for this series is Gordon Hayward, right, coming back. So he can really like change things for this Celtics team because that'll force like one guy out of the rotation for the Celtics, and that'll put another two-way all-around player in the Celtics rotation.
Yep.
But it might be troublesome for the Celtics at first because they need to ease him in, right? They need to, restructure the team, restructure the minutes. So it might not be the smoothest of transitions.
Right.
What do you think about him coming back?
The challenge will be who do you take out of the rotation, of course.
Yeah.
And I say lessen Wanamaker's minutes. He hit some. He hit.
You know,
He hit a few
I didn't know
threes.
that Wanamaker was he 30
31.
years old?
Yeah, 31.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah.
He's the oldest in the
Yeah,
team.
like what's the point of having him on the team? Like
Right.
barely any upside, he's not that good.
Yeah.
Like I
Like-
feel like they would have been better with a young player.
Wanamaker hit two threes in the first half, but in the second half he showed the oldest guy showed inexperience. He didn't know how to
Yeah.
play the zone, and there were so
'Cause
many.
I don't think he is that experienced like in these
Right.
big moments.
And
yeah.
he just had so many erratic plays. So I think that's one option for them to lessen his minutes and maybe take out Marcus Smart early in the game, then bring him
Yeah.
back in as the point guard. But, he's not a pure facilitator, but I think that's what's going to be key for them. Because
Yeah.
having Kemba out sometimes also might help because of how there's no defensive liability. And so far, Kemba's not being attacked on heavily.
Yeah.
They're trying to
Yeah, they're not looking for
Right.
him on mismatches.
They're
yeah.
in the first half, Butler was setting early screens for Dragic just so Kemba would switch on Butler early. They didn't really go to that. What's actually eye-opening is that the biggest weakness on defense is Daniel Theis. So Daniel Theis was minus 15 today, the lowest in the team. Tough.
Yeah.
And he's just too slow laterally. So
Yeah.
maybe what Gordon Hayward is gonna bring, obviously the offensive game's gonna be there. He's gonna spread
Yeah.
out the floor better. Because there are just times Jaylen Brown is making the wrong decisions off the ball. He's great
Yeah.
at offensive rebounding. You saw it game 1, game 2 also. But I think Gordon Hayward's just gonna be more disciplined in staying outside, giving
Higher IQ,
yeah,
I'd say.
and giving the space for Kemba and Jason to make their moves.
Yeah. And he'll improve their switchability on defense
Right.
for sure.
I think the question would be, will he be as quick laterally and will he be as mobile because of that ankle injury? So
Yeah.
we'll have to see
And
about that.
The Celtics can't afford to give up another game to provide a smooth transition for Gordon Hayward. So I think for Hayward it's like now or never.
Right.
And an underrated storyline in this series is how Kemba Walker has never been here before.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's never had a big game since UConn, and he hit that step back,
back.
Yeah, like when did he have like a high pressure
Right.
moment like that wasn't in the regular season? So I think in these Eastern Conference Finals, it's really showing because he's struggling so much. He's like forcing it too much, and I think Game 2 was really good for him because he slowed down, let the offense come to him in the flow of the game.
Yep. And today he was wired. He was the wired player today. And they were just
Yeah.
showing he seemed composed, great leadership. And
Yeah.
when you look at the stats and you watch the highlights, you'll also see how he kept the Celtics afloat, kept them close,
Yeah.
hit that big shot when he just came in. So I think that's a good sign for the Celtics fans, having
Yeah.
him come up big today.
They're gonna need it.
Yeah, they're gonna need him. But what just scares me is that the shots he made today were tough shots.
Yeah.
So
And he's not always gonna hit them.
right. So
Yeah.
are they gonna find a way to give him better looks? Because
Yeah.
this guy is not really coming off down screens a lot. The reason why guys like Curry, Dame are getting these great looks despite them being great shooters is because they're moving off the ball, they're setting a lot of back screens, ball screens off the ball, and eventually getting open looks. But seems like the Celtics don't really run that kind of system for him. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be a lot of pick and roll action for him, and with the length and the zone, we'll see if he'll be able to sustain that.
Yeah. So, we're in it for a great series Will the Celtics roll over, or will they show the heart that we know that they have? All right, we'll catch you guys next time, and remember, come through with buckets and chill for all things basketball.